important. We have seen politically that alliances and understandings are being revisited. We've also seen in a few cases, in the cases of really the major polities, that their belief in balance of power is probably much less. They seem to think they may not need the rest of the world as much as they did before. So if they have margins of power, they're prepared to exercise those margins in pursuit of their policies and actions. We have therefore seen overall the global needle move much more towards competition and away from compacts. And that global needle is moving because there is today a tendency to weaponize almost everything. And that if a state has a tool in its toolkit, an instrument to be used, there is much less reticence, particularly on the part of the major powers, to use that. So, all in all, yes, times are turbulent, to say the least, and we have, therefore, this challenge of how do we ensure prosperity. Now, every country faces this predicament. Obviously, so does India. But every country faces a different predicament. In the case of the United States, a country which, in a sense, underwrote the international system as we know it, has really been the harbinger of change. It is not only more assertive, but it has really allowed its or encouraged its national interest goals pretty much to drive its approach towards partnerships and cooperation. In the case of China, I think while they had clearly mastered the old system as we know it, this change perhaps catches them at a time when many of the new new concepts, mechanisms, institutions which they were pushing are not yet in place. But clearly what we can see is that the US-China relationship in many ways is going to influence the direction of global politics. In the case of Europe, what was a sweet spot in terms of US, Russia, China, US particularly security, Russia energy, China trade, has actually got turned around, and every one of those aspects today has become a challenge. In the case of East Asia, I think for a geography like ASEAN, being caught between US and China is a very difficult predicament. For those further east, the question marks about both economic and security question marks today are big concerns. In the case of Russia, you can see that their current goals and their future opportunities perhaps are not aligned on the same plane. But what is, I think in a way, what differentiates India is most of these regions, they are actually defending their interests. They are trying to maintain their positions. Whereas the challenge for India is how to go beyond that. That how do we rise in these turbulent terms? Because for us, just defending what we have is simply not good enough. This has caught us at a time in our own history, in our own sort of curve, you can say, where we have to not only internalize and absorb these risks, but find a way of going beyond and continuing with our rise. And that, in many ways, actually brings us to the domestic policy choices and governance. And I'm sure many of the other sessions would have discussed it. But I do, from my vantage point, want to make one observation. Obviously, as a minister, I sit in the cabinet. In the cabinet, we have different committees. We have a committee on security. We have a committee on economic affairs. And we have, of course, the entirety of the cabinet. But whenever I see any proposal come up to the cabinet, and I'm using this as a shorthand really for decision making in this country. I look at it from the vantage point of what I presented to you. How does it help me to navigate and advance in these turbulent times? So when I see a proposal to deepen manufacturing, when I look at a mission to actually promote advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, for example, or electric vehicles or drones or space,